Hi folks, today we're going to talk about some more about typography. So here's a little quote: graphic design is a form of communication. Typography is the most important vehicle for communicating almost everything. So if you think about a book cover, they've got beautiful images, but there's always words on it. Most everything that you're being communicated has words. Very rarely is it images alone. And so typography, I want you to become more familiar with typography and how the quality of it can mirror the graphics. So let's keep going. So we're going to look at type styles in historical context. So if you look at this piece of furniture, it's from the Victorian age. It's got symmetry to it. It's got a lot of detail in it. It's got color in it for a piece of wood, and there's some clean areas, but there's a lot of detail in it. So if we look at this page of Victorian typography, you can see it's got many of the same qualities. There's a symmetry to the work. There's a lot of patterns in here. The colors there's a lot of interesting colors in the work. Some of it's a lot of muted, but there's a lot of variety in it. We're going to compare that to this cabinet. This represents Art Nouveau. So Art Nouveau is similar to Victorian in that there were a lot of decorative aspects to it, but this is much more pared down. It's much more natural. It looks like branches moving. So if we look at typography from the Art Nouveau era, you see it's got this natural quality to it. This one very much looks like branches, but the type on the left also has this more organic quality to it, I'd say. I like showing this image because we've got some architectural space with the typography. So this is the metro station in Paris, and so the way the typography gets thicker at the top, it echoes the entrance to this station with the awning up above that's wider. And here's some more type from that period, a little bit different, but still quite lovely. This image here is representing a more futuristic, modern age, and so here we can see this avant-garde typography, the way the typography is used on the page. There's a lot of positive and negative areas. Using a lot of black and white, there's not much color, but there's the silhouette of the shapes is very important. The typography also doesn't have serifs. So serifs being the little feet, this is cleaner in a way. It doesn't have the feet. It's very, very modern. I love this one on the bottom right here. It's actually typography that creates a skyline of New York. And so different periods travel across the world, and they're adapted in different ways. So here you see a little bit more color, but that negative and positive space is similar. The drama of the page and the type without any serifs to it. This image here I'm using for Art Deco. You see the different shapes, the symmetry. With Art Deco, it's really the material, luxury materials as well. This is some more Art Deco, but this is a little variation. This is the Miami Beach Art Deco, and I love the way this one has the typography in with the architecture there. So you can see the thicks and thins of the typography. And here is Art Deco in the United States. It looks a little different than it does in here is in France, and it's much more softer and elegant there than it is a little bit heavier in the US. And here, this image, and it's funny, it's IKEA from 1969. I didn't know they were around then. But this is a modern living room, and you see there's a lot of bright colors, different materials. There's experimentation going on, which is exactly what was happening with typography at this period. If you look up at this one, it's hard to see in this image, but it's Clarendon, and it's actually a Victorian typeface, but the serifs of it have been expanded and layered, so that's really crazy. And then if you look at these versions down here, this psychedelic type is really reminiscent of Art Nouveau architecture and design. So I want you to look at some classic typefaces, and the typefaces you choose should be very classic and really well done. Just like when you're looking at furniture or the layout of a room, the architecture of a building, you want there to be really nice proportions. You want sense of quality, and the same is true with typefaces. So these are all very lovely design typefaces, and notice the dates on them. This Jensen says 1995. It looks it looks fresh and modern, but it's replicated from older typefaces. We look down at the bottom right, this Hoffler, the same thing, that's from 1995, where if we look at the Baskerville next to it, that's from 1757. So they're old typefaces when they were actually carved out of wood and then out of metal that are imitated with modern type that was designed actually for computer use. It works better. The proportions work better on a screen visually. And I want to point out Bodoni here, which is a very, very classic font. It's used in covers like Vogue and Cosmopolitan. We see it as being very modern and fashion forward, but this was designed in 1790. And Helvetica, which is really all over the place, it's the subway systems typeface that was designed in 1957, which really does feel very modern. And I want to show you these fonts. They're all over the place, and they're pre-downloaded with a lot of programs, and that's why we see them so much, but they're not necessarily quality. The top one here is Comic Sans, which just has this, it's like a wet noodle. It just doesn't have any shape and stamina to the text. And then the one below it, it's hard to read, and these curves are, there's not these great proportions. The one below it looks more classic, but those thins and the squareness of the serif sometimes make it fade away and not work very well. Below that we have a typewriter typeface, Courier, which I know a lot of people like to use. There's something about it that seems has a personality to it, but I want you to really think about typewriter type in when it came from a typewriter. You know, the ink was smushed and mashed, and it was ink being pressed into the paper. There was this quality that's not slick and digital, and so it should be really used in the context of something. If you're doing something that feels handmade, then the typewriter font might be great, but if you're doing something that's really slick and modern, typewriter face isn't really appropriate for that. I also want to talk about type hierarchy. So what that reflects in this layout here, you see we've got the best cities to visit solo in Europe. That is obviously the title of this page, but I'm going to scroll down, and I've circled the different types in the hierarchy. So we've got the threes, this type, there's the 1, the 2, the 3, and the 4. So this is the balance and the weight of the typography. So there's different ways that the type is being used and consistency. So when we see London, England, Prague, Czech Republic, these titles, in Paris, France, they all are the same hierarchy. They're the same level. That's the city name. And then 3 and 3, these are more the paragraph text. Okay, so you want to find type that works together, but works at different levels. And so we're going to be designing some different spreads, and each of these spreads are supposed to work together. And so I want to show you this design. So we were creating grids last week. So the grids from a multi-page document are consistent throughout the pages. So you see the left margin over here is the same. And visually, even though these aren't the same, you have to turn the page to see one page from the next. They're not all laid out like this. This end line here in the pink box it's where this other pink box starts on the next spread. So even though you have to flip the page to see the next page and what's happening, there's still this consistency in where everything's lining up. I also want to point out here the space between these different pictures. Even though these pictures are different sizes and there's fluid, they hang together in the middle, and then there's this open space around them. It works really nice the way they overlap, and then there's this even space between them. They hold together, but then there's this nice movement around them. So we're going to be doing essentially what's more like a magazine spread. So I'm showing you these layouts. This is from Martha Stewart Kids, and I just think some of these layouts are really beautiful. And there's, look at the typeface that's been used with these Minipeds, which I didn't know that's what seals and sea lions and walruses were all from, but now we know. So here they've got this wide margin on the left and right that's consistent. There's this lovely typeface that's fun. It's got these extra long ascenders and descenders that sort of feels fun with these animals. Looking at the next spread, again we see they've got the pictures sticking together here, unlike what I was pointing out, the little bit of space between, but they still have the space between the text here. And one of the things you're going to see repeated on these pages is the circle. So they've got these playing with these boxes that bleed off the page, and then having one page that's got a really dominant image, playing with the larger text that's the same upper and lowercase letters. The text that overrides, it's consistently used. Here again we've got a big spread, and then we've got little boxes again and different text laying over, and then we've got this circle over here again. And I love the way the circle and the red of the ball matches the red of the boy's shirt. Little details like that really matter. And so here's the last one. So now I'm going to show you some interior design magazines. So here you see this spread. So it's 2 pages together, and it says high impact. So look at the type that's been used here. It's very clean and looks fancy with these thin serifs like that Bodini, which is used on glamour and fashion magazines. It's got this thick and thin here, but there's this round quality to it that sort of echoes the look of this space. You see that rounded couch, the rounded table, the rounded rug, the rounded lamp. So they're playing with that, with the typography. And then you can see 2 more spreads from this magazine. You see this spread down here, the right hand page, it bleeds off the page, meaning that it touches all the edges, and the same over here, it touches all the edges. They've got typography over top of the imaging, which is great. You just want to make sure it's legible. So this high impact here, this light blue actually works a little bit better on this dark blue background than it does on the white, but they're trying to strike a balance and find that color that works almost equally well on both backgrounds. Here we've got what we call an initial cap. It's really prominent, but that sort of takes your eye where you should start reading. This paragraph, or several paragraphs, this is paragraph text, and it continues down here. These are the same width consistently, and then these little bits of information that are specific to the images. There's one here, one over here, and here. They are consistently also the same width, but they're indented a little bit, not the same width as the paragraph width. Over on this, excuse me, I have hiccups, this one, they've made it narrower, which is inconsistent, but they have at least stacked the 2 together, and it's aligned in a nice way. Again, I want to point out that they've got the boxes in different proportions, but this one, they've always following the same margins. This one is bleeding off the page. This one's bleeding off the page, and this one follows that margin at the bottom. Sorry, I shifted that down there. So there's this consistency with that grid. One of the things that bothers me a little bit about this one, you don't see it so much when you're flipping the pages, but there's this horizontal line across here that's a little bit off. Might be my scaling in my pictures, but so even from one page, one spread to the next, there's this visual that continues on. between these same pages. Here I'm just showing you some covers. So one of the things I want to point out, this Risky Business on the left stands out really nicely against that black, and playing with the two colors, the lighter and darker pink, works nice. Over on the right, the Creative License, it doesn't work as well on top of this picture. Sometimes when you're layering type over top of a picture, you're either sacrificing the legibility of the type, or you're covering some of the image that you might like to see. So one of the things that you could do is you could have this image not go all the way off to the top of the page. You could crop it down lower, and Creative License could go above it. So you don't always have to have that text riding over the image. You can allow for there to be white space that text can sit alone. I'm going to go over that in the demonstration video. In this one, this Gazing Inward, I don't love the way it's broken up, but it's kind of cool. And the typeface is interesting. It's got some fun qualities to it. This is a really beachy feeling layout, or beachy feeling interior. I don't know that it necessarily matches the look of these interiors, but they are kind of a interesting interior where they feel very beachy, but there's some other, it's a mix of different things. It feels classic and beachy, and I don't know, there's like Moorish tile in there and a lot of bright pink colors, and there's a lot of different things going on. And so this Gazing Inward, I don't know if it's doing anything great to support these layouts. I think maybe it could have been better, but it's not bad. Here you also see the initial cap again over here. One thing that they have done here is you see that occasionally this smaller text, they're aligning it on the right side, and here it's aligned on the left to align with the picture. I think it would actually work better if it was still aligned on the left. I do not like this ragged left. They call that ragged edge. So it's clean on one side and then it's ragged on the other. And I get why they're doing it. They're getting this nice border, but I think it would actually make a cleaner edge if it was aligned on the left. So that's my 2 cents there. It's something that we all have our different things that we prefer. So here they've actually gone to centering it too. I don't like seeing it switch back and forth also. This is narrow, this is wider, this is medium, this is centered, this is flush left, flush left. So it's a little bit, these are centered over here. It's a little bit too mixed up, and there's a lot going up on these pages. So I think if they were all neat and tidy, like this one over here and this one over here in the upper left here and in the corner over here, I think if they were all like that, it would be just quieter and those pictures would stand out more, because there's a lot going on in these pictures too. So this is your assignment. You are going to, I gotta move this around some, sorry. There we go. This is an image of your assignment. It is, you're going to do 3 spreads. I am providing you all the images. This is the layout I've created. You're going to create your own. I take you step by step how to create the grid and putting in your different type. You'll see I have played with having the text on the image and on the blank area. I've provided 2 different images for this living room. One is cropped more. This one has this nice blank area where I put inspired. If it didn't have that blank area up here, I would not have put the type up there. And there is consistency here with flush left, with these little bits of text that you can see are associated with the different images. And then here's our running paragraph text. There's this, this one has sort of a columnar feel to it. There's a big, this is bleeding off the top and bottom on the left and right panels here. But there is these open areas, and gradually I loosened up the layout so there's more white area in this movement into the pages here. So there's pairing up and keeping these spaces consistent, tightening things up here and there. So there are a lot of different ways that you can approach these layouts, but you want to look at the quality of the images, the way the interior space has been designed too. It's really pretty tidy, and there's a lot of, you see the aligned bookcases in the different spaces. It's not, let me roll up here again. This room has a lot of curves, undulation. There's a lot of, everything's really curvy and motion, a lot of motion going on in this room, which is in contrast to this. So I've buttoned it up the way I'm using the typography in a space like this. So hope you'll have fun doing this. We are going to be working on this for 2 weeks. So you'll start doing as much of the layout that you can. You're going to be putting in Miro to share with your peers and get some feedback before you finish it in the second week. Okay? Good luck.